you guys have questions for Coach, go ahead and use the raise hand feature.
We good deal. All right. Changing the scenery up. We we are out of our team room due to construction for a while, so we'll do some of the press stuff in here. Um, but good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate everybody being on. Um, we're doing this press conference for spring ball a little bit early. We have the spring game set for April 24th, like you all know. We haven't officially set a start date yet. Um, we had some COVID issues at the beginning of February where we lost a number of guys for about a week, and so we'll probably extend our winter program at least another week, maybe two. But we'll let you know when we start. Okay, the end date's going to stay the same. It's going to be the 24th. That'll leave us with 1 week left in the semester and then into finals. And so then our players will have downtime during the month of May. But wanted to make sure y'all are aware of that. Winter program is going well. Like the progress we're making under the direction of Mike Joseph and his staff. Really, three things we've been focused on is strength. Is we've got to get stronger on both fronts. You know, if you look at the games we lost, we really lost at the line of scrimmage, and we're physically not dominated, but we lost the physical battle up front. Discipline, and really just detail things, especially when adversity hits, and then mental toughness. When in really the most important time, being our best when our best is required, and so that's kind of been our focus of our winter program, and we're making some positive strides there. Quick kind of preview spring wise. I'll go through each side, and then we'll kind of get and y'all can ask questions. But defensively, we returned a lot of production from one of the best units in the country last year. You know, the focus for our spring defensively we got to figure out how to get our best players on the field at the same time. Really going to push some growth for some guys, you know, and I'll give you an example like Akeem Messidor had a really good freshman year. We really need to get him where he can play both inside and outside. Josh Chandler needs to be able to play both linebacker positions. Tyke Smith, who's played at a high level, want to get him some experience playing at the deep safety as well. You know, really excited to see some of our guys that were in our developmental program last year that are ready to compete, and guys like Linnell Carr, Torres Simmons, Sean Martin have had really good winter programs and did a nice job during our developmental time during bowl game, and then going back into the fall. James Thomas, and then the two guys I think are ready to make a jump are Jackie Matthews and Daryl Porter, which is at a position in need. So excited to see those guys perform. Offensively, we return a lot of our production. We need to take a step on this side. You know, I felt like defensively last year in 19 we were probably about average, and we went to pretty good. Or offensively, we went from poor in 19 to about average, and now we need to take that next step. Got to continue to improve our run game, and we got to focus on increasing our explosive plays and get a lot of situational work. You know, red zone, and really our red zone numbers were better, but we've got to do a better job in that fringe area of getting down there. In the games we lost, we struggled there in that fringe area. Excited to see some Doug Nestor. You know, I think you know, a guy that's ready to come in and compete, and that's at a position need. Jordan White has had a really good offseason, going through our developmental program back during the fall. I think he's ready to be a factor up front. And then guys that played a little bit last fall, but I think are ready to take the next step and really compete is, you know, you got Sparrow and Mathis at running back, and then Sam Brown at wideout. And then it's going to be, you know, I'm looking forward to watching Garrett play in the spring. You know, 3 scholarship quarterbacks, he's going to get a lot of work. And so, you know, and he's had a productive offseason as well. Then you look at it, special teams. Really during the spring, you want to focus on fundamentals and techniques, but also you want to kind of build a menu of the guys that are going to be available to play on each of the 4 core units. We're going to have a long snap competition, between Hadley and Brinkman. We'll have a field goal competition. And then we've got to be more consistent punting the football. And then the last thing is we've got to get more production from our returners, kickoff return and punt return. That's a huge point of emphasis for us this spring, to be more productive at that returner position. I felt like we blocked pretty well at the kickoff return last year. We've got to be more productive returning it. And then punt return, we've got to be better as a unit. And so early enrollees, I'm sure you're going to ask about that. Those guys are off to a good start. Appreciate how they've attacked not only the workouts, but also what we're asking them to do from a culture standpoint. Excited about the new staff additions. I know that y'all have got to visit with AJ and Shadon, and really, proud to have them be a part of our program. I think they're going to be both great additions, not only I think in all phases, from recruiting to on-field development. And I think they really fit in what we're trying to do as far as develop our guys as well. And so before I wrap it up here, Monty and I are going to work to try to get you guys some access in the spring. We'll have to be creative, with COVID protocols and those things, but we're gonna figure out how to make that happen and do it in a safe manner. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. So Grant.
All right. First question from Coach Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
So Neal, in terms of the new coaches, as you said, we got a chance to talk to him. You addressed that. Not to get him fired, but Shadon was talking about you guys competing in high school and how you guys went at it, and you were a smack talker, I guess. So you want to respond?
I don't. It's been so long ago. I can't even remember. I do know that we won our share. How about that? We won. It's funny how just life kind of goes full circle. And Shadon and I played against each other in high school in all 3 sports. He was a 3-sport guy too, and we competed and competed hard, and always respected how he went about his business as a player. Kind of a blue collar guy. And then, one of the things that really drew me to Shadon was just, I like these guys that really work their way up. And you're talking about a guy that played at the NAIA level, coached that level, and then was in high school, and then slowly, but made his way up and made his way up in college football, in 2 systems that I have a lot of respect for. He worked at Wofford and at Louisville with a group that we really think highly of defensively. Those guys, we played against them when I was at Troy and they were at App. And those guys, it was the same system. Nate Woody kind of was the architect of that. He's a defense coordinator at Army. And so competed against, obviously Army in the bowl game, but, for 4 years at Troy there. And then Shadon has that system that's very similar to us, and they've had a lot of defensive success as well. And then working for Mike McIntyre at Colorado, who I have a lot of respect for, not only as a head coach, but as a defensive mind as well. Jeff Coons worked for Mike as well. So, it has, and he's going to be a great addition. I think some of his knowledge and recruiting experience has already started to help us.
All right, next question from John. Go ahead, John.
I'm just curious now, you've had some time to self-scout after the bowl game and look at what you did. Give me a thing or two that you thought, yeah, we did this a little better than I really thought we did at the time. And then maybe a thing or two that you said, nah, maybe we didn't do it as well as we thought we did.
Yeah, I think that. So I think we tackled better maybe than I had a feel for. That's something that jumps out. We worked that a bunch. Our ball security, you tend as a coach to remember the bad, but I thought we did a really good job of not necessarily losing games offensively by throwing interceptions or putting the ball on the ground. So those are two areas I think we probably did better. You know, as far as what we've got, you know, that we didn't do as good a job offensively. I think the first thing is we've got to be better in one-on-one situations. You know, we didn't win outside of Letty. We didn't win enough in those one-on-one situations, whether breaking tackles, making people miss. That's something that we've gotten in, and that's where a lot of your explosive plays come from. And I think that's one of the reasons why our explosives weren't as high as they need to be. Defensively, you know, I think that our pass rush, it needs to be better. You know, I think if you look at it, I think AJ will definitely help us in that regard. You know, but we've got to win more one-on-one, you know, pass rush. When we get in one-on-one opportunities, we've got to do a better job of winning in those situations to create pressures, to create sacks. Those are a couple things off the top of my head. If you think about special teams, we blocked kickoff return. We did a nice job. That's one of the hardest things to do in all of football is really to block on that kickoff return unit. And then, you know, our specialists, they've got to be better. You know, I've got high expectations for them. I think they've had a better off season. We've got to be better at that spot.
Okay, thanks.
Next question here from Keenan Cummings. Go ahead, Keenan.
Hey, Neal, have two for you here. You mentioned offense, a lot of production coming back. What's the focus for the wide receivers, you know, this spring and going into the offseason? And then secondly, you know, obviously you still have scholarships available. Have you had time to assess that more? And how big of a role does spring play in determining what you guys are going to need?
Well, we still have those. So let's start with the second question. And if I forget the first one, I'll call back on you. Okay. So I apologize in advance for that. So we do. We have scholarships available, and that's on purpose, I guess, for the lack of a better word. Some of it will go into how we perform in the spring. I think it gives us maybe at the end of spring we have a better opportunity to get the type of player that we need to come in and help us with those open spots rather than maybe at Christmas. You know, we found one in Doug, but we're just not going to reach. You know, we've probably reached maybe for one or two transfers since I've been here. The rest have been pretty good hits. And so the ones where we, maybe a little bit of reach we got in a hurry on. And so decided not to reach and take our time. And I think we may be able to get a higher caliber of player after spring, you know, that May, you know, early June. Now that's to be determined. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's what that's kind of what we're planning on right now. You know, there's some spots we got to build our corner room. You know, we're low there. That's for sure. We're low in our linebacker room. And then outside of that, we're going to assess, you know, post spring how to use those other remaining spots. And so, and I think it's important too is a couple spots like at linebacker, we need at least one multiple year guy, and the same there in the secondary. And so, I hope that kind of paints a picture on the second question. On the first question, as far as with wideouts, and is Jared are the coordinators talking today? Okay, so I'll answer this then because I was going to defer that to Jared if he was going to talk. But so the first thing is just catch percentage. We want to catch the ball at a higher percentage, and it's a fundamental issue. It's not lack of ability or anything. We've got to improve our fundamentals in that regard, and then we've got to be better at explosives. You know, and I think that's a little bit of everybody offensively. You know, we've got to protect better. We've got to make more plays on contested catches. The quarterback's got to do a better job of getting in the proper spots. But that's a point of emphasis, you know, and improving our catch percentage and our explosive plays. The other piece of explosiveness, as I already spoke on, is the ability to either break tackles or win one-on-one in space.
All righty. Next question from Ryan Pritt. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Neal, good to talk to you again, man. You mentioned the run game a little bit. You mentioned Mathis and Sparrow. You know, if you look at the production that was on Letty's shoulders last year in your run game, it was pretty overwhelming. I got to imagine that's a pretty big goal for you to kind of alleviate a little bit of that this season. Just how much up on the priority list is evaluating those guys and getting a feel for that in the spring, and how important is that to you guys going into next fall?
Well, developing running back depth is one of the key issues. I don't really think we put too much on Letty. We just we've got to be more productive when he's not in the game, and we've got to do a better job offensively getting him the ball rather than just handing it off to him. Okay, so, but Tony and Sparrow are going to get plenty of opportunities. We'll definitely be careful in how we use Letty, especially in our live situations, because he's already proven. We're going to use spring to keep him sharp. We've got to get better at a couple of our run schemes, and we'll use him to get better there, and then he's going to continue to make strides as a pass catcher. I think that I don't have the stats right in front of me, but he was productive. But I think we can even add touches to him in the pass game, and he's continuing to grow in that area. But Tony and Sparrow are going to get the predominant, or they're going to get the most carries and opportunities in our live work. And then we've got 2 freshmen coming in over the summer that will be given the same opportunity. And so we've got to create depth there and get more production with guys other than Letty Brown.
Next question here from Kevin Kinder. Go ahead, Kevin.
Could you, going over looking at transfers, is recruiting them different from recruiting a freshman? Do you approach it differently? Or are there different things to show them because they've been through it before and may not need all the bells and whistles?
Yeah, and I think too, Kevin, is you want to predominantly recruit high school student athletes. I think that's the key to success. Is you still want, if you're going to sign 25, you want, most of those probably, I'm using 20 as a typical number. You would like for those, if you're going to sign 25. Now we're not signing 25 in this class, but 25, you'd like for 20 of those to be high school, and then where transfers has changed a little bit is you got, used to be you're seeing kind of the grad transfer. It's kind of the one year. You still have those, but now you're getting multiple year guys as well. And so, building your roster is a little bit of a jigsaw, you know what I mean? And it's, you kind of you're always adapting. As far as just recruiting those guys, Kevin, I think that you would like it to be different than recruiting a high school student athlete. If the guy has, played and kind of is toward the back end of his career, if that makes sense, maybe a 1 or 2 year guy. You would like it because that means they've matured and they're leaving for a real reason, and the reason they're leaving, maybe it's more playing time, maybe it's a different position, maybe it's something like that. Then they're real direct in what they're looking for. Does that make sense? And maybe some of the bells and whistles that maybe catch a high school recruit's eyes, a uniform or a graphic or something like that. If it's an older guy and they're leaving for a real reason, that those are more direct. Does that make sense? Now, guys that have 3 or 4 years left, we treat it just like high school, because that's, for all intents and purposes, that's kind of what they are. They've been maybe in a program 1 year.
Next question here from Cody Nesper. Go ahead, Cody.
Hey, Neal, I just wanted to ask you about Coach Jackson real quick. You mentioned you like guys that have kind of worked their way up, and it seems like he's coached at every level there is. Just what do you like about him?
Well, a couple things caught my attention is, even though I didn't know AJ, I knew some people really well that had worked with him. And so he was with Blake Seiler last year at ODU. We played against him when he was at James Madison, and I thought those guys were extremely well coached. Now, they had talented players too, but I thought they were extremely well coached. He worked with Bill Legg, who was here, that's now at Marshall, who I have a ton of respect for. They worked together at Mississippi State, and then he GA'd at Penn State under Sean Spencer, who's now with the Giants. And Spence and I spent time at UMass together. So a lot of guys that I know and have a lot of respect for, and I'm close with, spoke really highly of him, not only as a teacher, but as somebody that can develop players. Great staff guy, and then where he's recruited and where he's from, I thought was a really good match for us. So we want to be more involved in New Jersey and into New York City, and so that's his home area. And then we've got to be more productive in the DC area and down into Richmond, and those are both areas that he has a lot of experience in. So that's kind of the thought process that's kind of thought process that grabbed my attention with him, and then have an opportunity to spend some time with him. There was, I thought he was a great fit.
Next question from Sean Manning. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Neal. At safety, obviously you have Tyke, but Sean and Alonzo said they're coming back. And then you also have Scotty Young and Kerry Martin, who have started games in the past. Just kind of, how do you see all those guys fitting in?
Yeah, so, we feel really good about, from that spear and safety, that we've got to be able to develop some younger kids there, because a lot of those guys are older or in their last year. And so I think the challenge, and I think it's a great opportunity in the spring, is we've got Sean Mahone, Alonzo Adai, Tyke Smith, and Scotty Young. Kerry, it's going to take him a while where he's been out. It's going to take him a while, but the Scotty Young, Tyke, Alonzo, Sean Mahone is we want to make them more versatile, okay, and use the spring to not only play one position, but learn really multiple positions in the secondary. And we've got to have some flexibility where we can play more defensive backs as well. And so we'll challenge them and put them in some different spots and be able to move them around. I think it's good too. They need to get film. You get film doing different things, because they're all multiple enough, and they're going to have opportunities to play at the next level. And so I think the spring's a great opportunity to give them some time to play some different spots.
Next question here from John. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Coach, just curious, your thought process and how you allocated the positions on the defensive staff, and was it based on the expertise of the guys that you brought in? Because it seems like you have some pretty versatile guys on that side of the ball. Coach them.
Yeah, I really like our defensive staff. It was important for me during this during this transition is to get a defensive line coach, because Jordan wore both hats last year, calling defense and coaching the defensive line. I just think that's a lot, and it needed to be done last year. But I think Jordan will tell you this too, when you get a chance to talk to him, is, he wanted somebody because that position takes so much fundamental and technique work. And so that was important. And then when Jemiah left, what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring somebody in that had some coordinating experience and had been at the Power 5 level. And we were fortunate that Shadon joined us. And if you look at it, and everybody on our defense has gotten, Dante's been a coordinator in the past. Jeff Coons has coordinated in the past and called defense. Jordan, Shadon, and so AJ is the only one that hasn't been in that role. So there is a lot of versatility on that side of the ball, and what that does is it allows for really good discussion, and that's what you want.
Next question here from Mike Kazaza. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Neal, good to see you.
Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. I've just kind of a two-pronged question on quarterbacks, if you don't mind.
Yep.
You've got a pretty unique situation that you've got a guy who's been here for 2 years, and will be here maybe for 2 more. And at that point, how much of Jared's progress is getting better at what he does? Because that seems like it would be pretty easy. But also, since you have time and experience, adding or incorporating different things? I'm thinking like a mobility that you talked about before. And then second to that, you mentioned Garrett. Realistically, what can Garrett do in the spring?
Yeah, so let's talk about Garrett and then come back to Jarrett. So I think for Garrett, this is a huge spring. You know, he graduated early to have the opportunity to go through spring ball last year and really only got 2 practices, and things were going so fast he didn't know which way was up, honestly. And during COVID, he had an opportunity to learn, but he really missed those live reps. And so, you know, he got every Monday Night Football rep and grew. There were some up and downs in the fall, and I didn't think he was at a position where it was fair to him to put him out there, you know, because I think you got to be careful with quarterbacks playing them before they're ready. And I just think it's you can see some guys that have been thrown into the fray that didn't work out very well for them. And so I think that is one position where you don't play guys until they're ready. And so this spring is going to be big for him. You know, he understands what our expectations are. He understands conceptually what we're doing in both the run and the pass game. He just needs live reps, and he's gonna get a ton of them. And so, and then with Jarrett, you know, he's got some things he's got to work on for sure. I think that you know, his mobility's got it. And listen, all right, I don't think anybody's going to mistake him for Lamar Jackson or anything, but what he's got to do is he's got to continue to improve his movement in the pocket. And so, you know, Tom Brady, you know, he's 43 years old, I believe now, and he's still at the top of his game as far as pocket movement. And it's movement that probably the common fan doesn't even notice, but he is elite at moving in the pocket. And I don't think anybody would say he's a great athlete. You know what I mean? And so, but he's his pocket movement and his efficiency with his movements is special. Maybe it's probably as good as anybody's ever done it at that position. And so Jarrett's got to improve on that. We've got to improve on our ability to hit the deep ball. I thought he did a great job of taking care of the football. He didn't play very well in the bowl game. I think that's been noted. But he didn't lose us any games. All right. And I think that's a step for a quarterback. Before you win, you need not lose them. And so this spring's going to be big for him because there's some certain things that he's got to do to be able to win against the teams we're going to have to beat to take the next step. You know, the teams that finished ahead of us in the standings.
All right, we'll take one more here from Cody Nesper. Go ahead, Cody.
Hey, Neal, I was just wondering if you've talked to Charles Huff down at Marshall at all since he's gotten here, and then just what are your thoughts? You know, he has a good reputation as a recruiter, and you talk a lot about how important recruiting West Virginia is to you. Just how you think that's going to play.
So, I don't know Coach Huff. We haven't talked, or we exchanged some messages about when Bill Legg went down there, but heard nothing but good things. One of my close friends, Kirk Soraka, they worked together at Western Michigan, and then he and Bill worked together at Mississippi State, and I talked to Bill quite a bit, and he speaks very highly of him. I think he'll do a great job. He's very well known as a recruiter, and he's also, you know, I think he's been extremely productive at his position. If you look at everywhere he's been, whether it's Alabama, Mississippi State, Penn State, Western Michigan, across the board, his guys have been ultra productive, and so I think that speaks well of his ability, and he'll do a good job. He really will, and he put together a strong staff as well. Just looking at it from a distance, it's been impressive what he's been able to put together as far as staff there.
All right,
so,
Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate y'all getting on. And like I said, Monty will be in touch. We're gonna figure out something where y'all can see some of the stuff we're doing in the spring. Pulling for the basketball teams, they close out, and looking for hugs, getting hopefully $8.99 tonight. Man, that's impressive, and surely he'll be a Hall of Fame coach pretty soon. I don't get that. I don't know a lot, but I know this. If you win 899 tonight, hopefully, and then 900 on Saturday or whenever he gets 900, I don't know a whole lot, but I know that's a damn Hall of Fame career. So wish them the best as they're finishing up. Y'all have a good one.